Welcome and thank you very much for your participation. My name is Armin Anders, co-founder of EnOcean and responsible for business development. As an introduction, let me briefly explain the motivation behind today's webinar. The connectivity of wireless EnOcean units to the intelligence in the cloud or the local automation requires a receiver infrastructure that traditionally still has to be wired. Why not use or just insert the EnOcean USB stick into the Aruba access point and use the existing IT infrastructure? Today, Jens Flügel from Aruba will present this very exciting topic that I'm really looking forward to: how to achieve sustainable and efficient building digitalization. Jens, before you start, would you also like to introduce yourself briefly, please?
Yes. Hello and welcome, and thank you for having me. My name is Jens Flügel. I'm a systems engineer at Aruba in Germany, and taking care of also interesting integrations and partner relationships, supporting the global business development team, like EnOcean, for example. I would like to give you a, let's say, a little bit of a different view on the topic digitization today, because as you may know or may feel like I'm doing, we are usually living in our, let's say, our own bubble, social bubble, professional bubble, and I think it's sometimes good to have a different view on things. And I've done this presentation 2 weeks ago at a local event for an EnOcean partner, and we thought it would be a good idea to share this also with the wider EnOcean audience. In my preparation for this presentation, I did some research and discovered a report, or let's say a scientific article from 2018 about the topic digitization, sustainable or digital sustainability. It was about the question, how can digitization be really sustainable? And that should be a little bit like the topic of this presentation as well. Therefore, let's have a quick start on what my point of view on digitization is. Digital transformation is what we call what's called a mega trend. It's because these mega trends are running over a long time frame, usually 10, 20 years kind of things. And these are called megatrends because they are, working slowly, but they change usually all levels of our lives, right? And digitization is one of these trends. I usually ask someone in front of me, if I'm discussing with them, what do you understand? What's your view on digitization? What do you understand? What's your feeling about that? I personally, for me personally, digitization is, for example, online shopping, or social media, social communication, the way we communicate today. It has changed the last 10 and 20 years. But first of all, digitization for myself is networking. I'm a networking guy working for Aruba. I wouldn't be here, and my job wouldn't exist without networking. One type of networking that is rising the last years is IoT, the Internet of Things. And that's the way how we connect the physical world with the digital world. And we try to optimize things. We try to optimize processes, kind of things. But you may ask, and if we take that to the topic about building digitization, the first question for myself is again, what does it mean, and what does it have to do with sustainability? Let's take a look at sustainability first. Here again, if I think about sustainability, my first thoughts are things like less resources for building constructions, energy efficient buildings, these kind of stuff, right? And And for me personally, it's at the moment things like, how can I get green energy for my own house, for my own home, let's say. Yeah. So that's usually my thought on these topics. But if we think larger, if we think bigger, large buildings, office buildings, hospital buildings, these kind of stuff, what does it mean for there? If we bring together buildings and digitization, what we usually try to do at the moment is we try to optimize how we operate buildings, how we try to optimize the energy efficiency of buildings, but that requires monitoring. It requires a lot of sensoring to, first of all, understand the usage of buildings. We put a lot of effort in getting these sensors connected, kind of thing, and we usually install a lot of let's say additional technology into buildings. The question here is really, can this really be sustainable? Does the effort and the additional technology we bring into buildings helps to make them more efficient? What is the effort? And here I would like to give you a little bit, tell you a little bit of a story of my professional experience. I've had the last, let's say, five years. That was my way to, let's say, building digitization and sustainability. I'm working with a customer in Germany. It's called UKSH. It's a universal hospital in Germany, in northern part of Germany. It's has been nominated to be one of the 3 most digitized hospitals in Germany this year, and they started their journey in 2015. You have to know that these the hospitals are in 2 campuses, in Kiel and Lübeck, and they have a lot of distributed buildings at this time. And in 2015, they decided they want to prepare for the next century, for the hospital of the future, and they started building new centralized buildings in both cities. And about 2 years later, they started to looking at the IT infrastructure required for these buildings. And I have been get in touch with the IT people of UKSH at this time. One of their goals was to digitize the hospital processes, for example, with location services. And they originally planned to use Wi-Fi location for that. But at this time we have met them, they already recognized that the accuracy of Wi-Fi location wouldn't be sufficient to achieve what they have been looking for. And therefore they looked for other solutions, and they came up with Bluetooth low energy based location services at this point in time that looks to be sufficient. And funny enough, at the same point in time, a lot of startups came up doing that. The problem here was that they haven't planned for the additional infrastructure that would be required to use these BLE-based location services, because at that point in time, or even today, you usually need additional gateways that are plugged into power outlets or connected to additional network connections. And they haven't planned for this infrastructure. It would have been a huge effort to bring in this new cabling or additional cabling and additional power outlets. And therefore they asked the vendors, wouldn't it be possible to use a Wi-Fi infrastructure with BLE-based radios integrated for this solution. And we as Aruba have had already Bluetooth radios in the access point at this time for about 1 generation of products. And they asked the vendors to do a proof of concept, and we have been able to show that that's possible. And in 2018, they a partner of us, a local partner, Air IT Systems, have won the opportunity with this customer, and they finally finished the whole building construction in 2019 and opened up the new hospital buildings. And Last but not least, now in end of 2020 and beginning of 2021, they started deploying the services they have been looking for from the beginning, the location service. And now, as of today, they deployed asset tracking, for example, for bed cleaning management. They deployed indoor navigation they can use the same infrastructure for. And there have been also new use cases being deployed. For example, temperature monitoring for medical treatments for drugs, these kind of stuff. So there have been also been new use cases. What does it tell us? The challenge of IoT connectivity is the infrastructure that's required to make this connectivity work. And that's what I've seen with a lot of customers until today, that there are always nice digitization use cases, for example, asset tracking, but this usually comes from a lot of vendors with additional gateways for this connectivity or for these location services. Then we also see connectivity for digital signage that also usually needs another kind of connectivity, another type of gateway, because, for example, even if it's wireless connectivity, it needs another frequency or something like that. And last but not least, the sensors to monitor things, building automation, and these kind of things. And this all is expensive. This is expensive. And in addition to that, it takes time. For every of these use cases, if you use different infrastructure and gateways, it takes time to implement it. Yeah, to make up the project, to bring everyone on the table that's required, these kind of things. But it's also not sustainable, because you need, in worst case, additional cabling, additional gateways to power these kind of stuff. And Aruba has been able to build a solution that allows to mitigate these challenges by allowing to use integrated, what we call IoT radios in an Aruba access point since 2 or almost 3 generations now. And this allows us to lower the cost, to speed up the deployment, and for sure to save infrastructure costs, huge amount of that. Not at the cost, it's more sustainable, because we avoid using a lot of copper cabling, right? And these kind of things. We can use Bluetooth, for example, or Zigbee kind of use cases. We can use an integrated radio, but in cases where we do not have the radio integrated, like with EnOcean, for example, we are able to extend this infrastructure with USB dongles, for example. And that helps us to achieve the same thing. Let's take a look at one of these use cases. Last one, the UKSH has been deployed, for example, and is one of the most successful use cases. Basically, they monitor the temperature of medicine, of drugs, and this just forwarded the information to a central system via the infrastructure and is recording. It's quite an easy use case. They even extended it already to monitor the temperature in their distribution rooms for their networking equipment, to identify if the temperature gets too high before the network devices starts complaining about that. But we have a challenge here, and that challenge is that most of these sensors here are using battery powered sensors. And the challenge here is, for sure, and you already know it, is the batteries are not really a sustainable thing, because you have to maintain them, you have to maybe recycle them, and the uses of what's called critical resources, like copper or lithium and these kind of resources, is critical for the future of of the world, right? The more batteries we use, the more resources we need. But you already know we have a solution for that. From EnOcean, we have the maintenance-free and battery-free sensor technology, or energy harvesting technology from EnOcean, that's also using wireless connectivity, and that's a great solution. At the time I've heard the first time of this solution, some years ago, I was really excited about that. I haven't heard about that before, and that's a different bubble I'm living in. So, but it was really exciting to see that technology. And you know the vendor, right? EnOcean is a long-standing innovator and market leader with this technology, and I don't have to tell you a lot about that. I think, and now Aruba and EnOcean work together in a strategic partnership to optimize, to make the IoT utopia dream come true. To make it possible to have a digitization, an IoT solution that's using the best of both worlds. An existing infrastructure with the Wi-Fi infrastructure already deployed in most buildings, and if they are not deployed, they will be deployed. There's no digitization. The basic for digitization is networking and communication, and we just add the IoT on top of it with the technology from EnOcean. But you might ask now, okay, that sounds good, but what does it really bring? And that brings us to our question for you. Okay, so what do you think are the connectivity cost savings with a wireless access point integrated IoT solution? What do you believe we can save if we use an integrated solution? Really interested to see what do you think? Okay, seeing answers coming in. Okay, we're getting a favorite now. Nearly there. Okay, there's a difference between using a USB dongle for sure and using an integrated radio, but I can tell you it's not that much of a difference. Okay, so we close the poll now, and here are the results. So, okay, we have 50-50% between what is it? A little bit too small. Okay, so let's see. It's interesting to see what your response is, and yeah, we an integration partner of EnOcean, eShelter, did research on the costs from existing projects, and first of all, let's take a look. What are the costs of an infrastructure? And here we are looking at the hardware cost for a connectivity infrastructure for an EnOcean project. And the first thing we see here is that about 2/3 are made up by the sensors itself. That's the part we cannot remove. We need these sensors, sure. So we take a look at the connectivity cost itself, and that is 1/3 of this hardware connectivity cost, and it divided itself into connectivity and cabling, and the gateways and antenna technology you need. The radios you put into the ceiling, and the gateways you need to get the data from these antennas. And if we zoom in a little bit here and just take a look at the connectivity costs, we see that it again is 2/3 is just the cabling. That's the biggest part of the cost, and the 1/3 is the hardware of the antennas and the gateways. And you know what? We can save about 90% of these hardware connectivity costs. We can bring it down, so we can save almost all cabling costs, because the only thing that's left, if we will see in a second, for gateways is some gateways that need to be connected, but all the antennas are gone, more or less, or the connectivity for these antennas are gone. The only thing that's left are the radios. Are the radios that are plugged into the Aruba access point. And that's how we do it. And that's really a huge saving we have by just plugging in a small USB dongle into the Aruba access points to make the EnOcean connectivity available on a building. And with that, we open up the whole ecosystem, the whole ecosystem connectivity, or the connectivity for the whole ecosystem from EnOcean, right? And what happens here is the access point basically builds a secure tunnel, secure gateway. It's working like a road for the EnOcean data to these gateways we still need. And there are two gateway variants, let's say, and these gateways take the EnOcean data and convert it to, let's say, MQTT and other protocols from EnOcean and forth and back. And for sure, we have a variant that we call a virtual gateway. That virtual gateway could be the IoT connector from EnOcean itself. And with that, that's the lowest possible option, lowest possible cost option here, because we just have the hardware cost for the USB dongles. And the EnOcean IoT connector is just a software stack. It's a container in Azure or on a local data center or on-premise system. So we have no hardware cost on that, on the connectivity side again. But there are a lot of local intelligent gateways that are usually built into hardware. And these also support this connectivity to the Aruba infrastructure, for example, here from data controls. But there are also others like IA Connects, for example, in the UK, and there are several others already supporting this connectivity. It's just a tunnel to these gateways, and we forward the EnOcean datagrams forth and back. Yeah, the Aruba infrastructure is not touching the EnOcean protocol itself. It's just the pathway for the EnOcean data or for the EnOcean protocol. If we take a look in a larger, higher view on that, if we take a look at this example infrastructure here, we see that we can replace almost all of these, let's say, additional antennas with Aruba access points plus and USB dongle. But what we also see here, and that's some of the challenges for the future, I would say, is that we now have in this project already 3 different groups, I would say. Yeah. It's the guys responsible for the building automation, are the IT guys building the IT network with the access points, right? And it's for sure the infrastructure of the building. It's the cabling and all this stuff. And these groups have to work together. That is different today and has been different in the past. But with these integrations, this has to be, a joint project. We have to work together on that. And to make that work and to live that, we are currently working on one of these projects and POCs. We are working with, for example, Schweikart in Germany, where they built a complete new office building where the infrastructure is coming from Aruba and where EnOcean is supporting the project. Data Controls is providing the EnOcean network here, like the gateways, and I think also the USB dongles. And Thing IT is providing the overall system solution for the smart office. And that is really great because Schweikart, for example, is able, as other integrators, are able to bring all these topics, all these things together. And that's required to make it successful. Yeah. But that's just one example of the possibilities we have in the whole EnOcean ecosystem. There are a lot of solution vendors out there in this ecosystem providing great products, great connectivity, and they can leverage that. Yeah, it's just one example who can do it, and that this ecosystem approach is successful. We see that EnOcean is already there for 20 years, and congratulations again to the EnOcean team to that achievement. Really a great achievement. With that, I come to the end of the session. Just want to if you take three things with you out of this session is that building digitization is a team approach, to make it sustainable and successful. It can be sustainable and efficient if we select the right approach. But we have to plan early to make it a success and sustainable. And we have to rethink somehow how we do this kind of project. That was more or less the example from the beginning. They haven't planned for digitization of the hospital as they would have to be, but they have been lucky at this point that they have found a solution without investing in a huge infrastructure connectivity. And with that, I would like to give it back to Armin and any questions you might have.
Yeah, and also you, because the first question we have in is exactly for you. The question is, how many IP addresses will be from need? Every Aruba access point, one IP address, and behind into the field, EnOcean, no more IP addresses. What about the data traffic bandwidth? That's the second question. Let's start with the first. How many IP addresses will be needed?
Okay, every access point usually use a thing or needs its own IP address. That's the way it works. Yeah. No, every access point has its IP address, and the gateways, the access point or the access points are communicating to also usually have or need an IP address. So the common connectivity between the access points and the gateways, the EnOcean gateways, whatever it is IP based.
Next question, what about the data traffic bandwidth?
That's really lightweight. You know that because EnOcean is using a very lightweight protocol to transfer the sensor data and stuff like that. Therefore, the traffic is just the same. Basically, it's just a tunnel that is built between the access point and the EnOcean gateway. So there's not really much overhead. It's not just one WebSocket tunnel. And there's the data, the amount of data is not more than before, just a little bit of an overhead of the header. It's the same amount of data you have today in let's say classic EnOcean solutions. I have no exact numbers, but it's really small.
Okay, next question. Thank you very much. Distribution of all data points via Ethernet cable. Or are these areas, e.g., for example, behind the Aruba access point in direction to the field devices?
I'm not sure if I got the question completely. Can you just repeat it? I mean, one more time. I haven't got it.
Distribution of all data points via Ethernet cable, or are there areas, e.g., behind the Aruba access point in direction to the devices?
Okay. So the yeah. What do you think? What the question means?
To you.
Okay. So I think so. The connectivity from the access point to the sensors and actors in EnOcean devices is wireless, right? The radio, the USB dongle is plugged into the access point, and from there the traffic of this radio in the access point is forwarded via IP on Ethernet. So every access point for sure has a cabling. It needs a cabling, and a Wi-Fi access point needs a cabling, and that's forwarded via the cable infrastructure of the Wi-Fi network to the gateway. I hope this answers the question. If not, just let's ask again in more detail.
Probably for adding on the access point simply forwards all the telegrams you get from the USB stick. The gateway itself behind that takes care that only one message is handed forward to the cloud and not every message from every access point. So if there are sensors that are received by two access points, for example, then only one message is sent forward. hopefully this answered the question. The next question is, how big is the range of the USB stick to receive and to send EnOcean telegrams?
Yeah, echo. The distance is depends a little bit between 15 and 20 meters. That's something that the EnOcean colleagues have tested and measured. So you end up usually with a similar range you have with a classic EnOcean installation.
Yeah, at the end, it's the range is better than Bluetooth, and so if you put a dongle in every access point, then you have you don't need an additional range planning. Quite simple.
No, so a Wi-Fi access point has a range, or it depends on deployment, but Wi-Fi networks today are deployed in a range between, let's say, 12, 15 meters apart, the access points, and that will cover more or less the same range for the USB dongle with the EnOcean protocol. So we, in our experience, is about 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 relationship between access points and USB dongles from EnOcean. It depends on the building, to be honest.
Thanks, Jens. Next question. We are running out of time. Can Aruba be combined with the local edge control in order to support basic building function, heating, lighting in case of failures in WWW and cloud connection?
We as Aruba, the access points are just the pathway. So everything that a local EnOcean gateway as part of a building automation system can do can be done. We are just replacing the connectivity. So we are not handling the EnOcean protocol as such. So think of it as a black line, a black connectivity line between the EnOcean radio and the building automation system and the EnOcean, let's say, gateway as part of that. So everything you can do with EnOcean, you can do with an Aruba infrastructure as a connectivity layer.
Yes, the answer is simply yes. For example, this approach we have seen from data control in one slide before. This is an edge controller, and there's also an application already realized for heating control of the energy of the thermal-powered heating valves, and this works quite well. So the intelligence is that local in one gateway, and this one gateway is connected via the access points as area radios. So the answer is simply yes. Due to time constraints, we have now 3 minutes over time. We will answer the remaining questions by email. So please forgive us. And what I also want to do is giving you an outlook to the next webinar. First of all, thank you again for your participation today. The next webinar, what we want to see, where we want to see you again, is a smart office success for a systematic approach together with Goldbeck. It will be on December 15th at 10 to 10:30. And we also will send you shortly a link to today's recording and the registration link for the following this webinar. So we look forward to seeing you again on December 15th. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.